Hi, everyone. John Michael Coppola here, and welcome to the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast, where we chat with the actors, directors, choreographers, designers, producers, music directors, lyricists, playwrights, and all the artists who make the Chicago area theaters come alive. We're so excited to have you here with us today. But before we get started, we just want to remind you to please like, subscribe to, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues who you think would appreciate the conversations we're having. We'd be so grateful for your support in this way so we can continue to bring these stories for years to come. Thanks again for being here, and now, curtain up on today's episode. March is National Cabaret Month, and today's episode is part of our series celebrating some of Chicago's amazing cabaret artists. Today's guests are a married couple known for their innovative vocal jazz arrangements paired with the immediacy and intimacy of cabaret-style storytelling. Anne Burnell is a vocalist and songwriter whose work has been presented at jazz clubs, concert halls, and festivals, including the Sarasota Jazz Festival, Taste of Chicago, and Plymouth Arts, Wine, and Jazz Festival. Her solo recordings include Blues in the Night, a Harold Arlen tribute arranged by Count Basie Band veteran Bob Ojeda, and Summer Days and Dreamy Nights, produced and arranged by Henry Johnson. Summer Days and Dreamy Nights also featured some of her original songs that earned her a Billboard magazine Certificate of Achievement in Songwriting. Anne served as president of Chicago Cabaret Professionals from 2019 to 2023, during which time she received the organization's Excellence in Cabaret Service Award. Mark Burnell is a pianist, vocalist, and arranger hailed by the Chicago Tribune as silky smooth and highly polished. He has worked with Dave Frischberg, Richie Cole, Louis Belson, Connie Francis, and Ward Swingle, among many others, and has toured internationally throughout Europe, the Caribbean, and Central America. A dedicated educator, Mark taught jazz at Northwestern University and Roosevelt University, trained vocalist for 10 years at Carnegie Mellon University, where he earned his BFA and MFA, and directed the CMU Jazz Choir. He's one of Chicago's most in-demand pianists and music directors, and leads a weekly jazz trio at the Tortoise Supper Club. Together, they tour nationally and internationally, presenting Chicago-rooted jazz and cabaret on stages in New York, Paris, Amsterdam, Panama, and beyond. Their work has been supported by the Chicago Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, Illinois Arts Tour, and the City of Chicago band roster. Finally, they were the 2024 recipients of the Gold Coast Award from Chicago Cabaret Professionals. While National Cabaret Month is in March, Chicago hosts its annual Cabaret Week each year in May. Anne explains why this is in the interview. And during this year's festivities, Anne and Mark will be appearing at the Gateway Lounge at the Copernicus Center on Thursday, May 14th. For more info on that event, please visit the link to Anne and Mark's website in our show notes. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Anne and Mark Burnell. And now let's go to the top of the show. Hi, Anne. Hi, Mark. How are you both doing today?
We're great.
Terrific.
Hi, John.
Hi. So great to have you guys here. I'm so honored. As is our custom here on the podcast, we always like to start off the same way, and that is to ask our guests to please give our listeners a little bit about your background, where you grew up, a little bit about your training. And then since we are kicking this off as Cabaret Month, please let us finish up your introduction of yourself with your first cabaret experience. So why don't we do ladies first? Go ahead, Anne.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Anne Pringle Burnell, and I grew up in Michigan, and I went to school for theater. So I graduated from Wayne State University and thought I would do acting and stuff. And instead, I came to Chicago and I started singing. And so then I kind of forayed into that, and I really liked being myself on stage and singing, things out of the context of the shows. And so I ended up sticking with it. So my training is definitely theater. My first I was really focused on jazz when I first started out, and I fell in love with it. And then I think both of us kind of pivoted and went into cabaret when there was an audition for the Cabaret Symposium in 2000. And we decided, well, we'll audition as a duo, and they had never had a duo before at this kind of boot camp training. Yeah, so we went to the Eugene O'Neill Theater in Waterford, Connecticut, and
Margaret Whiting was there, and
Julie Wilson. Yeah,
Wow.
Tex Arnold.
A lot of Broadway people, and there were teachers, and then just a group of like 30 people that got the training. So,
Yeah.
so that was kind of our turnaround about how to tell stories from the stage. So it's great.
Incredible. And Mark, how about you? Where did you start?
Well, despite 5.5 years of music training at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, one of my two best music instructors, and the first one I encountered was my elementary school music teacher, Mr. Richard Zanna. And for 6 years, that amazing man was just, he was my life. He was just incredible and so much fun. And when he retired from a little tiny school district, I lived in the country an hour north of Pittsburgh, and despite that little school district, they started a festival after his name, Xanafest, and it ran for 9 years, and we performed in it about 6 times.
Oh, wow.
And and then at Carnegie Mellon, I just loved it. I at the end of my first 5 years of training, a position opened up for vocal coach for the music theater department. Lucky me. So I spent the next 10 years there, and then helped to start the CMU Jazz Choir. And then in '89, I moved to Chicago, and 4 years later, I met this amazing person. And I think you know a lot of the rest of the history.
Yeah,
I do. So what was it that brought you each to Chicago? Had you heard about the cabaret scene here?
There.
And what, yeah?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bigger place and a better scene.
The music scene. I wouldn't say we hadn't really even heard of cabaret.
Gotcha.
Not until 2000, yeah.
So I was going to either go to New York and do theater or Chicago. I went to New York for a couple of months. And then came back to Chicago because I thought we were going to start a theater company with my friends and I. So instead I just, auditioned and waited tables and, got into the music business. So
it's incredible. I've had so many guests on here whose stories are so similar that they, grew up and trained elsewhere in the country, but Chicago had this reputation that once they got wind of it, no pun intended, they moved here and they dove right in and they loved it and never left. And it's not a surprising story to hear, but it goes to confirm what a great town this is and full of music and culture and theater and all that stuff.
It is, and you can carve out your niche. I really feel like
yes,
there's a lot of opportunities.
It's a great jazz scene too, which makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I just had a guest on yesterday. We were talking about how you can start your own theater company. Just find a location, do a show. I mean, that's literally the Chicago way, with doing theater.
That's Steppenwolf. That's,
Yeah. I mean, but seriously, where else in the country do you find that? You don't find that in New York. I mean, I suppose maybe now you could, maybe the East Village or whatever. That was more the thing there. But really, this is where that idea is born and sort of still flourishes to this day. It's pretty amazing. Mark, you mentioned your teacher that was an influential person in your life, and I'm curious if you had any similar influential people in your life.
I want to say, as far as actors go, I mean, that was too long ago for me to really remember my idols, but I definitely, had some old school idols. But the voices that I would hear singing, so Sarah Vaughan and, and then Eva Cassidy, even in later years. And I have a big appreciation for Julie London's simple style. And anyway, so I just kind of, listening to the voices, listening to them. Those are my mentors, I believe.
I have to recall a story of the first time I saw you guys. What is his name? Guy from New York who does the Birdland series.
Jim Caruso.
Jim Caruso, when he did it at Main Stage. Right. And you guys were at Main Stage. I was there that night. I performed that as well. And you guys sang something in German. It was like a comic song. You probably do it a lot. You probably
I know what it is.
So what was that? And I'm just curious, what the inspiration was to. I mean, you guys have such a great comedic style, anyway. I just knew that about you, but it knocked the socks off everybody, and the house went crazy. So, what was that song you guys sang?
Okay, it was simply the entire history of Mac the Knife from Three Penny Opera.
That's
right.
So we took it
poorly translated.
Yeah, we did it badly on purpose, and we just kind of thought, what if this was an entire history of from whence it came. So we went to the library. Remember, we went all the way down to the library. We pulled the music from Three Penny Opera. Mark wrote it all out, in our keys and arranged it and stuff. So we went to the real classical version of
And
that.
then ended up in jazz at the end.
And then we
Bobby Darin's version.
But it's kind
Yeah.
of, really what Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill did.
Right.
They moved, from, Nazi occupied Germany.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, we'll just move it along with them, and how it became a pop song in 3 minutes.
God. I remember to this day. I couldn't remember the context of what it was, but I remembered how funny it was because of the way you guys interpreted it and performed it. It was as you were definitely sending it up. Like, it wasn't like you were trying to be good at singing German, but
No.
my God. That leads me to my next question.
Okay.
When you guys are creating a cabaret show, where do you come up with the genesis of the show, the ideas for it, the selecting the songs? Like, do one of you have a key role in you're going to create the show, and then Mark, you select the songs for it, or how does that all work? I know it's a very similar question, like when people who write songs, what comes first, the music or the lyrics? But this is sort of a similar.
Well, we create them together, and the theme that Anne mentioned earlier was Juliet London, so we did a show about her. Then another time we did all Harold Arlen songs. Another time we picked a theme called Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves. So there was all songs about those characters.
Nice. Yeah, so then you can pull a bunch of like hustlers and thieves and all kinds of, sordid people. And so it's fun to create like a set, really, of music that has an arc to it. So you're not just going to the club to hear like a list of songs and it's kind of random how they go together. I mean,
right. And so when you do that, how easy or how difficult is it to create patter in between to tie all those things together? I've always been fascinated with that part of the artistry of cabaret.
The patter, yeah. I mean, people can give lectures and lectures on patter, which is ridiculous. But we find that we get all the information. So, and then we don't want it to be a history lesson or anything. We want it to be funny. So the nature of the duo, as we learned from Margaret Whiting, just the nature of the duo is that you toss it back and forth, and someone's the straight man, and
Right.
So we can make fun of it. We can also, there's other things you can do in patter. You can lie. You can give false information, right? And then have someone. I mean,
we can correct each other.
Yeah.
Or if it's a funny song, it could be straight patter, and backwards if it's a straight song, funny patter.
Can you, or I should say, do you go off script a lot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I imagine when it's a dialogue fashion of a patter, you can sort of riff a little bit more because you've got a scene partner. Yeah.
Well, plus you never know what's going to
happen.
Audience.
Yeah, the audience. They inspire our patter a lot.
They're going to interrupt, or if we ask a question, we don't know what rabbit hole we're going down.
Yeah. Do you ever like call an audible, as they say, and like change a song that wasn't in the set list and add it at the last minute, but based on the audience response or pattern?
I think we have, yeah.
We have done that, especially like if there's someone, songwriters have come to our show, and we'll be like, oh,
let's do one of their songs.
We got to pull up their, Yeah.
Oh, super fun. Now, I know you've also produced a few CDs. Is it the same sort of thought process when producing a CD to get songs that are sort of within a certain context or a certain story structure, or are these just songs that you always felt you wanted to record and then you find a theme around them?
Oh, of our 5 albums, the only one that has that strong of a theme is the Harold Arlen album, which was released on his 100th birthday.
Yeah.
They were all Harold Arlen songs, but the rest of the albums were just our favorite, our best stuff at the time.
Gotcha. Yeah, and if we feel like we've taken a song and put our signature on it, like it shouldn't be like exactly from the musical. In fact, the opposite.
Oh yeah, we changed the time signature. We changed the feel, the groove.
Yeah. Like 5,000 people have recorded My Funny Valentine. Are we going to record that? Probably not, unless we, find something interesting and new to do with it. So we want them to be uniquely ours.
That leads me into my next question. Actually, a lot of artists have their signature song. Do you guys have either a signature song or a signature style that you consider your style?
Well, it's jazzy vocals, but and harmonies, but we were grappling with like a signature song because people have asked us that recently. And so we have favorites, individual favorites, but we mashed up 2 songs together during the pandemic, and I think it was mind blowing to us when we were finally successful in having them crisscross. And it was I've grown accustomed to her face from My Fair Lady, and the first time ever I saw your face, which was Roberta Flack, and so so it's really like
it's a mashup, and it's
Yeah.
they're similar enough and different enough that we could make it interesting.
So we start each of them, and then they fold over each other, and when we got it to work musically, it still stuns me to this day, because it kind of tells the story, of us being together for so long, and so we recorded that one.
And a lot of our fans like our a cappella singing.
Yeah.
So they will request that all the time. So one of the ones we do a great deal is Honeysuckle Rose without a piano.
Oh, I didn't realize that was part of your act. Sadly I've never seen your act, because you're always
you saw us a
show when I'm working. Well, but that was different. That was cast party. It wasn't like your full show. So
right,
I every time you've been doing a show, I've been engaged doing something else.
Yeah,
but
we'll make it happen.
So the acapella thing is like, that's a signature thing for you guys that you're known for?
We throw in usually one a night. And the funny thing is, when we got started with it, we were just...
It was an accident.
Yeah.
We were on our way to a gig, and we realized in the car we had failed to rehearse a song we had to know. And I thought, how
Just
could
for
we
a wedding
now?
or something.
So I started to sing a bass line, and she sang the song.
I was like...
And it was fun in the car, so... Just out of craziness, we tried it on a gig once, and the crowd went nuts.
Oh my God.
So we kept adding them after that.
And you know how singers will chime in with harmony. You can kind of hear them in the room. And so it sounds really fat, when there's a bunch of vocalists in the room. And then we went to record one of them, and I was like, oh my God, it's just us. Like, I guess we're used to hearing everybody in the room sing along.
But she sings the melody, and I sing the bass and drums and harmony.
Many of our listeners who may not be familiar with you know about Mark's recent medical event. And I certainly know very little bit about it. I know, through your social posts about the big journey. But if you'd be okay sharing with our listeners a little bit about from beginning to end and how you're doing today, I think it's one of the stories for the ages, quite frankly.
Well, I've had a head injury. I fell in college backwards in the grass, and there was a manhole cover in the grass. So I ended up in a coma for a week and missed a couple of weeks of college, and I forgot about it as the years went by. And 25 years later, I had a grand mal, and it was because of that. So they put me on seizure meds, and then unfortunately they weaned me off the meds. And then 4 years later, which is 19 years ago, then I had so many grand mals they had to put me in the ER, and they had to induce a coma.
So he had a serious life event like about 20 years ago, where from when he was a kid. So just kind of, it shows you that a head injury is never really healed. It can kind of come alive. And so anyway, so they put him on meds, and they took him off, and then we had it. So then we were on medicines for many years.
And it worked for another couple decades, and it was fine.
Yeah. But then he started to have little breakthrough seizures, and he's allergic to there's a lot of complications. So we were kind of at this end of our rope as to what options we had. But we came down to Florida to do some gigs, and our friend Pete, who's a drummer, was over, and he goes, hey, what's going on? It's that Chicago thing. And he said that
we told him our problems, and he's like, oh, I got a guy. We just laughed.
Yeah.
He did have a guy.
That's a very Chicago answer too. I got a guy.
I got a guy for that.
He went to college and high school with Dr. Brazos, who used to be the head of neuro at Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, which is only a 6-hour drive. And he said, just tell him your story. So I emailed, a long story of the whole thing, and he got us in.
I'm going to fast forward. So it was, he called the hospital. Then the hospital called us and said, there's a clinical trial we want you to be part of. And
I'm like, sure, we're at the end of our line. I'll try anything.
So we made several trips there, and, they did all these testings. And stuff. And then they did this practice session. Anyway, we were in the room and they decided they have a new kind of clinical trial where they put a couple hundred wires into your brain in all the different areas. And then Mark brought a toy keyboard because they had to have him awake while he was playing to see if he made any mistakes, or they didn't want to damage any tissues that were musical.
They were doing ablation, so they were burning the bad brain cells. And I had this little keyboard in my lap, and I was wide awake.
And I was singing.
And they said, don't do any easy songs.
No.
So here we are singing Joy Spring, a bebops,
We're like scatting, we're throwing chords back and forth. I mean, it was...
And Mark, you were singing while playing too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And listening. And so if I heard a wrong note or something, I'm like, yep, something...
And I didn't feel any pain because there's no pain cells in the brain.
But
right, I've heard that.
The surgeons and the surgeon, Dr. Graywell, we just lost him, but then the guy who invented or designed the brain mapping thing, Dr. Sapsovich was there, Dr. Freund, and then our main doctor, William Tatum, was there. They were all like, I couldn't believe it. And it was Easter last year.
It was exactly on Easter.
Yeah. So we shared our story on social media and a little bit. And
the journalists were really interested, and I didn't mind telling the story because I want more people to know that music can heal. I knew music could heal because I was doing it all my life. I was healing people, but this time I was healed by music.
Oh my gosh.
It was so beautiful. Like it is scary and beautiful. And
yes.
Like a friend came and played violin with him, and because it was crazy. And we came back and there was a lot of media interest in it. So we just did a bunch of interviews with Sun-Times and the Tribune and the Channel 5 and WBB. Like there were so many.
I know. Incredible. And so you just yesterday, a couple of days, had a follow-up, and you're doing perfectly well.
Great. Yeah.
I'm doing better. We're still having them.
So, we actually met we actually met the retired doctor that got the whole thing to happen yesterday.
Yeah. And hung out with him. He was amazing.
And so it was nice to have that full circle. But there's some strategies. So we're still doing follow-ups and stuff. And, as a performer, it's scary because it can just be like checking out, They're
not grand moles anymore. It's just like I check out for 8 or 10 seconds. And if I'm playing piano, who knows what comes out of my fingers? I'll keep playing.
Yeah.
So, I'm a little concerned that it would happen on stage.
Yeah. What a story. And I always get fascinated when you hear these stories, like, whose idea was it to think, well, if we do this, if we put these 100 things in the brain and have somebody play while they're awake, I mean, who the person thinking of that, they're like the true geniuses of today. Like,
well said.
That's my mind.
And they do such collaboration there, that.
Oh yes, the neurology department
is everything. Like so, you've got the best ideas happening, and they're like, well, we're gonna try this.
Oh my gosh, how fantastic! Thank you for sharing that with everybody. Because
thank you.
I only knew a fringe part of the story. I didn't hear it from the very beginning. So
I think it was like Steve Dale from WGN. He interviewed us right after we got back, and then that caused the kind of I think it caused
it caught on after that.
And you guys are still busy after all that, of course.
Yeah, we're doing gigs down here in Florida, and we're doing some recording, and
we have some new music that we're working on. And today we just kind of did a little video for our friend Susan Werner, who has a new song that came out today, and it's called Sleep. And so she said, hey, why don't you guys make a little video of it? So we just dropped that and we're sharing it on social channels, but it's very funny. And if you know her work,
it's a great song, and it's on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'll look for it. Great.
Yeah. And she just dropped it today on Bandcamp.
Today.
Mm-hmm. It's called Sleep is the New Black.
Appreciate it. Thanks for letting me know about that. What advice would you give aspiring cabaret artists besides don't go into cabaret?
Yeah,
you guys have made You guys have made a great, wonderful career of it. So I'm curious what your secret to success would be for them.
Well, I don't know if it's a secret to success, but I do believe that you always have to study something. So whether it's you videotaping yourself so you can see your own habits
Mm.
or weird things that you do, or whether it's you take a group of voice lessons, or you study with a mentor who's helping you write the pattern and hone down and edit you,
Yeah.
or whether you get a director, go ask some theater person who's not in a show right now and like have them meet with you and go through your show and say like, I'm not feeling the arc, or this could be larger. Because if you're not really passionate enough to write a whole paragraph about each song that you're doing,
right. And every song is a monologue. So write it out as a monologue. And if you're not truly in love with the song, then don't do it.
Yeah. Mark has his students speak the words to him, not in the tempo of the music, but just to tell him the story. And
it's difficult. Mm-hmm. It uses a different side of your brain.
And how successful do you find them to be as far as once they read the song to you, if you will? Do they decide, yeah, maybe that's not the right song because I can't connect with it enough?
Well, generally what it makes them love the song more and understand the song more, and mostly importantly, memorize it.
Oh, wow.
Because
okay.
if you can talk the words, which is much more difficult, then you could sing it by memory.
Gotcha. And that's excellent advice. I was thinking it in the reverse, like you were making them speak it out to make sure that they connected enough with it.
Yeah, it can deepen their connection too.
Absolutely.
But it also, like, there's a lot of people who just fall back and read stuff all the time. Especially they're just on their phone reading the lyrics, and I'm like, then you haven't gotten.
It moves it from left brain to right brain.
Yeah.
So then now you have all cylinders firing when you sing it.
Tell us about some of your favorite cabaret artists, or any cabaret performances that have stayed with you guys all these years. Do you have any?
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
There may be many if you could hold it down.
So many.
Yeah. When we first did the Cabaret Symposium, kind of we're still considered jazz artists, really, but
we want to be. Yeah. That's our main love.
But we decided to go back to New York, and the club we used to play there closed, and so we hadn't been back in 19 years. So we went back and did a show there, and we got to play with a bassist who we love, who was with Ahmad Jamal for 40 years, Jim Kamak, because he lives there. And then we had met this new violinist
named Zach Brock.
Yeah.
He plays with Snarky Puppy.
Oh my God.
They're great.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So we just met him, and we were like, hey, you want to play with us in New York? Because
he's like, sure.
Our drummer was playing Tommy on Broadway.
So we couldn't use him.
I know. It was insane. So
the four of us did the show, and
yeah.
And then we got him in the studio because he came to Chicago to play a tribute to.
I know. It was a really hard Mahavishnu. Is that how you say it? Mahavishnu?
Yes.
Orchestra? Yeah. Anyway, so
we got him in the studio. While he was in town, he said.
So we have some new singles that we're going to drop with him,
and he'll be our star. He'll be our next guest artist.
It's just that when you move forward, like, hey, what if we go back to New York and we call all our friends we used to know there and make sure they come to the show, and then you create these new relationships and stuff, and then it turns you into another recording project, and it's just kind of
it was
cool
dumb
like
luck.
that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have guest artists a lot on your CDs?
Yes.
We're just a duo, and so we want to make a band.
Yeah.
Our first CD was just the two of us, but our guest artist was Johnny Frigo, the best jazz violinist, and Buddy Charles. Yeah. Buddy was the best entertainer I've ever heard in my life, and he was, if he'd have lived in New York, he would have been incredibly famous. But he put 4 kids through college by playing piano bars in Chicago. But he knew every song, ever written, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so he was a guest artist, and Johnny Frigo was the best jazz violinist since Stefan Grappelli. Yeah. But after that, we started using bands.
But we would just, we select them, the musicians that we like, and just try it out and go in the studio.
Yeah.
We have a lot of help too.
Do you use, I know jazz is a very sort of fluid operation, but like when you're in the studio, do you have like fake books?
We have arrangements.
You do have arrangements. Okay. I didn't know. It's just like, then you take this solo and you take this solo. We'll see how it goes.
No, and then, we send them the recording and we send them the chart and hope something magical happens. Because
time is money in a recording studio.
I remember like something like that did happen. Like on the Arlen CD, we were running this chart that Bob Ojeda wrote, And
Who used to play for Count Basie.
yeah, and write for Count Basie. Anyway, so we were in the studio with horn players and everybody. And the bassist, I think it was Jim Cox, said, "Hey, you know, we could do this as a jazz waltz." And so we just changed it right then. So that has happened. But
Rarely.
And everybody just locked in and did
Yeah.
it as a jazz waltz.
Yeah.
I love that. There was one show where it was when Tina Turner had just passed away.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I actually it was a show with my 4C notes, and we had the horn section there, and we got to the sound check, and I turned to my drummer and said, "Hey, do you think we could end that run with I'm blanking on the song now. Roll
Proud Mary.
Thank you, Proud Mary." He said, "Yeah, what key?" I
The
said,
drummer.
her, yeah. I said, "Whatever key she sang it in." He goes, "Yeah." Counted it out. The band played it with no charts in front of them because these are all seasoned guys in Chicago. They've played it a million times at weddings. And we did it on the spot, closing Act 1 in front of the audience. I mean, we rehearsed it at soundcheck. But then, we end our Act 1 with a totally different song. But then I said to the audience, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a little, we're calling it audible."
To honor her, yeah.
And I love those moments. It's just, it's so alive and exciting, and no one knows if it's going to really work. And when it does, it's just, it's magical. So,
especially with four guys doing parts and a band. And I mean, like, that was really risky.
Yeah, it was only two of us took the lead on the melody, because the other two guys didn't really know it. They just came in on the rolling down the river part, which was fine. The audience just ended up, and because she literally had passed that day. I was like, we gotta do something. And she always was a favorite artist of mine.
What a perfect choice, and the audience sang along, so that there went the fourth wall.
Exactly right. Yeah, and then I actually since have put that in my solo concert, because she was part of my story growing up. I remember exactly where I was the first time. I was an MTV generation kid, and What's Love Got to Do with It came on.
Oh my God.
I was like, who is this woman, and who are those legs, that pair of legs? And then you start walking to the boardwalk as a 13-year-old boy. And that's how I got introduced to Tina Turner. So now I put her as part of my story in my show, and I sing that, and the audience, they love it because it's unexpected. I do it in her key too, and it's kind of fun. We're gonna move on from that, but I do want to ask if you guys have any dates coming up that you want to promote.
Yeah, we have we're going to be part of the Chicago Cabaret Week, which is a 10-day festival, and it's happening in May. Okay. And the reason Chicago Cabaret Week happens in May instead of Cabaret Month in March is because there's already so much happening in Chicago. In March, there's like Restaurant Week, and then there's Theater Week. After that, we had to go with the dates that the city had. And so once we put it in May, they schedule it every year in May. So we're going to do our Julie London and Bobby Troop tribute with a band at Copernicus Center on May 14th, Thursday.
And that's kind of a new room too. The Gateway Lounge in Copernicus Center.
How's that going? Yeah, I know a lot of people just started playing there.
Well, they had that, they have a huge hall, which is like, I think 1,800. So that's not great for intimate places, but they have a second room that they never really set up, or they're just kind of. And so Mike Jeffers opened it up, and it's called the Gateway Lounge, and it's can seat 150 to 200.
Oh wow, that's a nice size.
And there's a parking lot. It's perfect.
There's a parking lot. There's a light and sound guy to die for. He's great, and so it's our engineer filmed there, and he was like, "You guys, the sound here is amazing." Yeah, the piano's great.
That's really great to know, considering the demise of Davenport's, that there's a town that can, people can go to.
Yeah, they kind of came on the scene, hurried to come on the scene when Davenport's closed right before Cabaret Week last year. So
wow,
yeah,
fantastic.
Well, you mentioned Davenport's. We were able to walk there, so I walked there for hundreds and hundreds of gigs over the years, and I miss it, but that's okay. The Copernicus Center is terrific.
Where can our listeners find you both online, if you're active on social media, which I know you are?
Oh yeah. Mark?
So, online?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your handles on all the socials, like Instagram, Facebook?
YouTube. It's Burnell Music.
No, and our website has all our social channels on it, so it's
BurnellMusic.com.
BurnellMusic.com, and
great.
And Facebook, we're Burnell Music, and great. Instagram, I'm just Anne Burnell, and he's Mark Burnell 88 because there's 88 keys on a keyboard.
Right.
And TikTok, we're just Burnell Music as well. So it's Twitter, same.
We'll link to all of those in our show notes. For
Thank
everybody
you.
to click to. Of
Wow,
course,
thanks.
I'm so honored to have you guys on here. Thank you so much for being my first guest for Cabaret Month. And
Thank you.
I look forward to speaking with you more and hopefully finally get a chance to come see your show with our schedules aligned.
Let's definitely come see each other's shows.
Thanks for joining us at the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Chicago Theater Makers Podcast is a production of Spirit Art LLC, and our podcast theme music is by Paul Langford. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, please drop us a note at our website, ChiTheaterMakersPodcast.com. That's ChiTheater, makers with an S, podcast.com. We hope you enjoyed spending time with us as much as we enjoyed spending it with you, and we'll see you on the board soon.